You're listening to the Boston Greeks podcast with Adi and Foti. They've been bringing Greek culture online since 1998, and now they're bringing you the best Greek guests Boston has to offer. So grab your kafedaki and join us.
Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the Boston Greeks podcast. Today we have a very special guest, and we could say a lot of great, nice things, but before we get into that, let me introduce my co-host, Foti Stamos. Hello, Foti.
Hello, Ari. Another great episode on the Boston Greeks podcast, and I see the excitement in your voice because for us, it's a treat that we get to actually bring on amazing guests who come from different backgrounds, who, even though we're a Greek-centric podcast, Greek Americans are Greek around the world. This guest actually is one of the best Philhellenes that we've interacted with, who's going to be coming onto the program.
An award-winning Philhellene, if I do recall.
Absolutely. So
but Foti, did you warn him that you are a BC guy? I mean, I don't know if he knows this, and I don't know if he would have.
I was waiting to acknowledge that halfway through the episode, just not, But yes, the school down the street. But without further ado, Ari, let's bring on our guest of the program, Professor Jay Samons, who's currently professor of classical studies at BU, or Boston University, also the executive director over at the American College of Greece in Athens. Welcome to the show, Professor Jay. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. It's a treat to have you on. Welcome.
It's a pleasure to be here. I'm not sure you realize just how far you've extended the reach of Boston Greeks by bringing a guy from Arkansas onto your program, but see how it goes.
I mean, that to me, that's pretty impressive. Guy from Arkansas doing what you do. Can we kind of backtrack a little bit to just a little bit about like your upbringing and kind of what is it? I mean, I know what inspires me about Greeks. What was it for you that kind of led you down this path? Because I'm absolutely fascinated. I remember hearing you speak at the Alpha Omega Gala, and an amazing speech and very inspirational. And so now, we want to share that with everybody, all of our listeners. Can you just give us a little bit of your background and what led you?
Well, I was interested in things ancient as a boy, and I can remember in the third grade checking out the books on Egypt from the little library at Cloverdale Elementary School. So I was always fascinated by the distant past and the distant future. I've been a sci-fi fan my whole life too.
That's awesome.
So I had that's kind of just an amateur's interest in the ancient world. But when I got to, and of course I grew up in I think a fairly serious Protestant Christian church where almost every Sunday I would hear the minister talk about Greek. So I was exposed to the idea of the Greek language as the language of the New Testament as a boy, and I thought, wow, wouldn't it be neat to be able to read that language? But I'll admit, when I got to college, I was pretty much set on becoming a lawyer, and was studying economics for my major. I had to take Latin. I went to Baylor University in Texas. I had to take Latin, or I did choose Latin as my language, foreign language, because I thought, well, as a lawyer, it'll probably be helpful to know Latin, that kind of thing. But I found pretty quickly that I liked my Latin classes and my history classes a lot more than my economics classes. A lot more than my economics classes. And although it took me 3 years to finally dump my economics major, I finally did. Meanwhile, I had picked up in as many ancient history classes as I could take, and then Greek, because it seemed I liked Latin so much. I thought, well, I always had an interest in Greek, so why not take it? And that was it. It was just a matter of the romantic appeal for me of enjoying these things and thinking it would be really neat to understand the ancient world in a way that's almost firsthand. It's almost like being there. I can read the words of the people who were there in the language they wrote.
Right. And that's no easy task. I mean, I've looked at ancient Greek, many times over the years, and I'm like, I can't even imagine. It's like,
nah, it's not that hard. I mean, I would love to say that's true, but I think there's a whole lot of things that are more difficult. There's a lot of languages that are more difficult. For an English speaker, ancient Greek is challenging because of the way the language is. The declensions and the way the verbs work are very complicated compared with English, for example.
Right.
But if you come at it from Latin, the two languages are extremely similar. So I always tell anybody who's learned one of those languages, you're going to have a lot easier time with the second one.
Right, right. Was there anything like kind of specific that was like your kind of foray into saying this is now my path? Was it like, did you read like Homer's Iliad, or was it some sort of like obscure passage that you read, something that kind of like just said this is for me, this is what I want? Or was it just a more general?
Yeah, it was sort of that. I mean, I went to graduate school at Brown thinking I was going to be a Roman historian.
Oh, wow.
But I found pretty quickly that I was more interested in Greek literature, and that it grabbed me in a way that Roman literature didn't, to be frank. So for me, the two authors that have meant the most to me are Thucydides, the historian, and Homer. Those are the two authors I've spent the most time with. Thucydides far more than Homer, and then Herodotus is in that group as well. But Thucydides is really the author that grabbed me, even as an undergraduate, and in graduate school, I began to focus more and more on the problems in Thucydides' account of the war between Athens and Sparta, and the development of the Athenian Empire, and the relationship between empire and imperialism. And that's pretty much been the focus of my whole career, is how Athens developed as a democracy and as an empire, and the way those two things related to each other.
So when you got into this, when you decided this is going to be my path, was becoming a professor like the end game at that point, or did you want you're an author as well, so was there a whole package, or was there just this is where I'm going, and wherever life takes me, that's what I'm going to do?
No, it was pretty much the whole package. I mean, once I decided I was going to I had to choose between going to law school and graduate school. I was still pondering the idea of going to law school, even as a senior in college. And I remember my younger brother asking me, I was just sort of fretting about it, and he said, well, do you want to be a lawyer? And I just answered no, instinctively, without thinking about it. And then I realized, okay, well, I've made my decision, and I thought, if I can get paid to read and talk and write about things that I really find interesting, then that would be pretty great.
Yeah.
And I realized it was a financial. I was never going to make a lot of money as a college professor. This was a point my father really drove home to me in no uncertain terms. But that was okay. And I thought professors seem to do all right. They can afford a coat and tie.
I think, I'm sorry, but following your passion, in my opinion, is of utmost importance. Yes. And, gives you something. People always say money can't buy happiness, money, blah, blah, blah. But really, if you wake up every morning and you're happy to go do what you do, and you have enough money to live, like that's perfect.
Yes, I couldn't agree more. And that's definitely been my experience. I still love teaching Greek and Latin and Greek history and Greek literature. I still love studying the things I study, writing the things I write. I will say, the further I've gotten into the academic world, the more administrative responsibilities I've had. These things tend to somehow diminish the pleasure of the life of teaching and scholarship.
It's funny you say that. My wife, for example, is a physical therapist, and she got into it because she loved, helping people, dealing with patients one-on-one or whatever. But her life has devolved into insurance paperwork, and she's like, it's just this isn't why I got into it, and it's unfortunately how things go, because at the end of the day, there has to be some sort of the paperwork and the money has to come. But it's like she got into it for a passion, but so it sounds like kind of like the more administrative you have to get, it's kind of like one of the sad side effects of following your passion.
Hopefully technology can help assist that in the near future.
Well, I'm going to admit my doubts about that. I'm definitely a pessimist on the technology front. My first 10 years at Boston University, I didn't even have email. And I remember when all the faculty at BU were getting email, and students would ask me in class, what is your email address? And my response to that question is, what could you possibly have to email me about?
Cat memes and
that for years. And now, half of my time is spent answering emails. So, and of course, technology has helped in a lot of ways. Okay. I'll be fair about that. But in my 32-year career now at BU, have I ever seen things change where we went from physical letters and memos that have to go back and forth across campus, to students emailing you because they can't remember what you said in class.
If I can also add to the conversation, Jay, that you're 31 years at Boston University, I'm sure, a delightful journey and experience at BU. But you also have an involvement over at the American College in Athens. Can we speak a little bit about it as well?
Sure.
Because
Yes.
growing up, growing up as in our academic world and journey, American College was always an institution and college that was always in the eyes of us as Greek Americans who do study abroad programs in Athens as well.
Yeah, the American College of Greece is an amazing institution. It's 150 years old now as of today, as of this year. Founded in Smyrna and then moved to Athens after the Smyrna catastrophe established in Athens in 1923. But it is, in fact, an American college operating in Athens, accredited by the same accrediting bodies that accredit Boston University and even Boston College. Right. And it teaches and offers an American style education in a country where European public education is the norm. And of course, that's very different from American undergraduate style education. There's no liberal arts requirements in Greek public universities, and all our classes are taught in English. So, students come to the American College of Greece and they leave with an American style and accredited degree. And they have the same kind of experience that American students have of, schools like Boston College and Boston University with liberal arts requirements. So they take a broad range of classes in addition to classes in their concentration or major. And it's on a beautiful campus. Teaching at BU for 30 plus years, I've gotten used to not having a campus. I mean,
Yeah,
BU
right.
doesn't have a campus. It has a series of addresses along Commonwealth Avenue. ACG has a beautiful campus on the slopes of Mount Imetos, in a beautiful neighborhood, Agia Pereskivi. And students can come there for study abroad for a semester, or they can come and do their whole degree there. And they can do it for about a fourth of the cost of an American liberal arts education. So it's quite a place. I've really enjoyed my association with it.
And do you still teach at the American College currently?
I've only taught there in the summers when I taught. The way I got connected with the institution was Boston University, but the Boston University Philhellenes, which was started by my colleague Kelly Polychroniou in the classics department at BU. She began taking students to Greece every summer, and I co-led that program for a number of years. And so when I was there in the summer, I would teach Greek history to Boston University students, but on the campus there at ACG, using their facilities. I had an office there that I shared with other ACG faculty. So I really got to know the place as a kind of temporary faculty member. And then I became friends with David Horner, who's the president of the American College of Greece. And eventually, he offered me a job. And I've worked there, and now I'm in a kind of consulting role. And I've founded a bunch of institutes and centers of excellence, and I've had various positions there. And so right now I work mainly on the development and delivery of academic programs across the institution. So, and I've thoroughly enjoyed it. It's a great place.
Fascinating. I mean, I think we can speak of this because, sometimes we, as Greek Americans, our non-Greek friends or colleagues will say, "Oh, you guys have the best of both worlds." Sounds like you are as well.
Yeah. The mascot of the American College of Greece is the griffin, which of course is an animal with two natures. It has the nature of a bird of prey and also a lion, and it is American and Greek, the institution, and it really is like having the best of. And you get the great weather too, and food and nicer people. So.
So would you say, Jay, that possibly, if you ever decide that you're going to throw in the towel and retire, would Greece be a location for your retirement?
I think that I'll spend some time in Greece the rest of my life, whether I'm still teaching or not. I've studied ancient Greece for so long. Sometimes people ask me, well, when you think about Athens, what do you think about? Do you think about the Peloponnesian War or Pericles or the Athenian Empire or this kind of Battle of Marathon? The truth is, I don't think about any of those things. I think about the friends I have in Athens right now, places that I like to go in Athens right now, the place where I know I can get the best spanakopita in Agia Pereskivi, the taverna, which is my taverna, and I know when I walk in there, they're going to be happy to see me, and I'm happy to see them, and I'm going to spend the evening there. the little coffee shop where I'm friendly with the owner. And, those, to me, Greece is the people who are there and the spirit of the place, which is extremely welcoming. And, there's a courtesy about the way people treat each other in Greece, which we don't have in the U.S., especially in the big cities.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, Athens is very much a real Greece is a real place to me with real people in it. And the past of Greece that I study is it's not a fiction to me, but it's not real in the same way Greece today is real to me.
I mean, that's so it's so great to hear, stuff like that, because Foti and myself, we grew up within the Greek community, surrounded by Greeks, going to Greece. It's like, for us, it's kind of just like not even a second thought of how things are, but it's like when we talk to our non-Greek friends, or like, you go to school and you meet people from various places and you kind of try to kind of explain where you're from and what you're about and who you are as a person and what molded you as a human. But hearing you, I mean, you're basically just like most of the people that I've met through college and whatever, but you actually embraced it and you actually, you understand it so well. And it's like an honor as a Greek to hear you say that. And, having people like you, the epitome of Philhellene, that's how I think of you right now. Amazing for me to hear that. And thank you for that.
Well, one thing I admire so much is that Greece still has a culture,
right?
Which I don't think is true of the United States. There aren't things that you can say most Americans will know. And I remember very well, we had a Greek music concert with the Greek Music Ensemble of Boston playing, this is 10 years ago at BU. And when the formal concert was over, they just started playing folk songs. And the Psy Auditorium was full. There were 500 people in that room. Every single person knew those songs. I didn't care if it was a 12-year-old girl or an 80-year-old man. And I had never seen anything like that. I was amazed. And then when I went to Greece and I'm at the Odeon and it doesn't matter. You're at a concert or you're at an opera or some other performance. And then they start singing folk songs at the end of it. And I thought, there's no song. America doesn't have a song like this. It should, but it doesn't. That the little girls know and the old men and the housewives and the guys who drive trucks and they all, it's really beautiful.
It's so nice to hear these things, especially from somebody who has your kind of background and your credentials. I mean, it means a lot. And well, let's kind of say we want to talk a little bit about an upcoming event. But before we get to that, what do you kind of see for your future? I know Fati asked about retirement, but before that,
good heavens.
You're going to be your hopes and dreams are, publish more books, keep as a professor, consult more. What do you see for your kind of immediate future? Well,
I'm going to do as much fishing as possible.
Very good.
Pretty much my passion outside of things Hellenic. But I've been working on one book that'll probably be the last book I ever write for a long time, and it's on the rise of classical Athens. And the basic question it asks is, why Athens? Why Athens instead of Corinth or Sparta or Thebes or Argos? Why did Athens end up producing so much more literature than these other states, philosophy? It's not that the other parts of Greece didn't produce things, they did. But those people who produced often came to Athens. Why? And so that's a really fun project that I've been working on and giving talks about, et cetera. But I'm well short of completing it. It'll be completed someday. But the book I'm actually actively working on right now is a book on Sparta and Athens, which is called Sparta and Athens, A Love Story. And it's very much about this. Why is it that Sparta and Athens kept going to war with each other, but then kept getting back together and allying with each other? And there was some strong attraction between those two states. And I think that they were actually much more alike than they were different. And so it's an investigation of this relationship. And that's really the way I see it.
Wow.
Like a relationship between a man and a woman who keep breaking up and getting back together again in high school, and you get sick of hearing about it, broken up, or are they back together? It's like that. So I want to finish those two things.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
I mean, fascinating. Those are just fascinating, just storylines that
Yeah.
I don't want to call it a storyline, but fascinating
Well, that's what it
history.
is.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, if it's good history, it's going to have a storyline or multiple
Right.
storylines, So I don't object to that term at all.
And I think, Jay, we can, now that we reflect on what you're mentioning, we can kind of see that traveling through the DNA of the different generations of Greeks, where, as our culture, our behavior sometimes could be a little different than other cultures, I would say, but we have this interesting way of dealing with each other as Greeks.
I think that's true. And I also think it's true that Greek culture cares about its past in a way, again, that I think American culture typically doesn't. I've had many Greek friends say to me over the years, oh, we don't know our own history. You know so much more about our history than we do. But maybe there's some technical truth to that. But what I do know is that my Greek friends care about their history. And Americans really don't.
Right.
That's it. I mean, for someone to say to you, I know I don't know enough about my own past is really an interesting statement because it says you care about it and it's important,
Right.
and I just don't find that as a very prominent feeling among Americans.
Right. Well said.
Well, I mean, this has been amazing because, again, like I knew who you were. I've heard you speak, which was a great speech, and then knowing what you're up to, I'm absolutely fascinated, and I can't actually wait to actually read the upcoming stuff. But on that note, there is an event coming up that you will be speaking at. Is there anything you could tell us? I know there's not like much information, but is there anything you could tell us about the event coming up on March 8th?
Right. Well, my friend John Pappas, who was a student of mine many years ago, and who is runs the Metropolitan Dance Group in Boston.
Right.
Great guy. John and I have been friends for many years now. We used to have breakfast at the Busy Bee before it was unfortunately gone now. What a sad thing. But so I think the focus of the event is Macedonian wine and Macedonian dance. And so I'm going to give a little talk. I promise it won't be too long. On the history of Macedonia, and I will say something about Macedonian wine in it. But basically, I'm going to talk about Macedonia's relationship with Greece and how Macedon is part of Greece, but an unusual part. So, yeah, I'll focus on that. I'll say some things about Philip and Alexander, undoubtedly.
Oh, that's going to be great, and I'm so happy. I'm making my trek back to Boston for this event, and knowing that you're going to speak there is just all the motivation I need to get up there. So, Jay, thank you so much for being with us. Thank you for taking the time. We know you're busy. You got to get back to writing and fishing and all the good stuff. But thank you so much for being with us. Thank you for sharing a little bit of your history. And I honestly can't wait to see you at the event and to hear you speak again.
Been my pleasure.
I have one last question for Jay. Since before we do sign off, you mentioned John Pappas was a student of yours at BU, and we've been friends with John Pappas for a while. I'm from BC, but how was he as a student?
He was a very good student, but he thought he knew more than he did.
Sounds Greek. No, I'm kidding.
Excellent.
Just kidding.
Typical Greek.
I wanted to thank you also, Jay, for spending the time with us. This is surely not going to be the last time. We'd love to have you come back on
Absolutely.
at some later point. I'm sure there's much more that we can discuss. But thank you so much for joining us. We're going to be seeing you shortly at the event. And for those who are listening to this episode prior to the event, it's Saturday, March 8th at the Maliotis Cultural Center.
Great. I look forward to seeing you there.
Thank you once again, Jay. We appreciate you. Thank you, Foti, as always. Thank you, everybody out there, for watching and listening. And if you Google Jay Samons, Professor BU, whatever he's done, whatever he's written, like, eat it up, because it's absolutely fascinating. If you can come to the event, you could see great dance performance. You could hear Jay speak. You could, see Foti if that's worth anything. But it's going to be a great event. And again, thank you, Jay, for being with us. Thanks, Foti. Thank you, everybody, for watching and listening. And we'll see you. Thank you. Bye-bye.